Welcome to Oh Brother, a podcast of three brothers trying to figure it all out. With your hosts, Brandon, Collin, and Aaron. On this week's show, buses don't fly. Hello.
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 Howdy.
I am sorry about the lost episode that shall be lost for all of time.
It's true, listeners. We've had a terrible tragedy on our hands. You might be slightly confused as this week's episode, but there is a lost episode floating out in the corrupted data files of the internet somewhere.
Yes. And so in case you were all wondering, the never released episode, I'll go ahead and say it was going to be Falafels Are Never Disappointing. That was going to be the title, which is a great title.
It is a great title. Also true.
It's also true. This episode included when I tried to buy a t-shirt. I had a rant about my t-shirt. And Aaron's saga of being cold. We talked about the mummification process. We talked about we had an amazing discussion about cultural anthropology, contextual personas, which is a phrase that I don't know if that's showed up anywhere else, but just figuring out which person you are and setting up expectations about which hat you're wearing in different contexts. Aaron,
that's true. We might have to rehash that at some point because that was good.
I think so. And then we even had a challenge. We had an impromptu CDL challenge of when people needed to watch movies and but you know what they say, what's in the show is in the show, and that wasn't in the show, so it technically never happened.
We at some point in the future we could do a brief review of the CDL challenge as well to give the listeners a glimpse at the lost past.
This is true.
I had a thought this week about that personality thing. And now it's gone from my head the second you said it. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, oh man. I think when I remembered that was in the show that got lost, I was like, sadness.
I will say,
if it comes to me again, I'll write it down so I can.
No, please do. I've had more just interactions with it because I want to be everybody's friend, right? Like, I have a really strong need for like external approval of people, and that makes having employees hard because I don't need their approval, right? Like, because like I need them to respect me, and like we need to work together. It needs to be well. That needs to work, but I don't need them to tell me that I'm doing a good job, right? So I need to. There are times where I catch myself like trying to make sure I'm like, oh, do they like me? It's like, well, they don't need to like me. They need to like respect me, and they need to do all this stuff. And anyway, I've been running into that more and more, actually very recently.
Well, that makes sense since you now have all the employees, right?
All of them. All of them. Oh man, it felt so weird. Seriously, the way like my life has been run the past many moons, Monday through Thursday at 5:40 or 5:50, I leave to go do this drop-in visit, and then I come home and put the kids to bed. It's been like just what we do every Monday through Thursday. And today is the first time I did do it, but it did happen. And I've just kind of been like, what?
Dun, dun, dun.
But like, what do I do?
It's true. So. Don't worry, listeners. I stepped up to the challenge and sent Collin the sad Pablo Escobar meme to really sort of encapsulate the mood. I feel like it was a good choice.
I love how the image title for what you sent me is even a bored Escobar meme.
Yeah, that's what it's called. That's the name.
It's even. Where is this from? I don't know.
I don't remember.
No.
It's no, I don't remember exactly. Let me see. Yeah, I just have seen it forever. Let's see if we can find a source for this. Sad Pablo meme.
Here we go. Isn't there a picture of him like that was taken by the FBI? Is that what this is? Or is it just like him like standing in weird places? Or is it from, like,
that one?
It's from a Netflix TV show.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's not.
So,
okay. It's not actually.
It's not like Pablo. Actually Pablo Escobar, but it's about a TV show about Pablo Escobar. Right. So that's what it is. So that's where the image comes from. I don't really know the context. I never watched this show, so I don't know the context of why he's just like blankly staring into an empty swimming pool. But he is. So yeah.
Okay.
So
you did your job.
The knowyourmeme.com explanation for that. There you go.
A wonderful internet resource, mind you.
I mean, it is very important to be aware of where your internet culture emanates, right? Can't just be blindly making memes and stuff, don't know where they come from, right? It's no good.
Question. Can you think of an I don't know if you have an instance in your time recently where you saw a meme or a reference that you just straight up did not understand?
Frequently, right?
Same. Okay.
Remember, I work with small children, so like sometimes they say things, and I'm looking at them like, "What?" Now, I don't have any like specific examples, right? Off the top of my head, do you have one? Is that why this comes from?
No, I was thinking of like anytime that there is a pop culture reference specifically revolving around like music, I have, or even like actors who were not young in the 90s. That's
fair,
right? So any actor that wasn't big in the 90s, I have no idea who they are. Like all these young actors. True. Especially for like the recent Spider-Man film or something like the newest Spider-Man. I don't even know his name. I know it was a big deal and all this like buzz around that. I'm sitting here going, I have no idea. Like that, I get. It's usually in movies and music is whenever I.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so thinking in the context, I do have these realizations sometimes where, I'm like watching TV, and like there's commercials on, and there are people in these commercials who are presented to me in a manner that I am supposed to know who they are. Mm-hmm. And I have absolutely no idea who this person is and why they are relevant at all. So, like, there are many instances where I'm missing something. I'm not sure what exactly. So, yeah, I have no context for these people. Mm-hmm. And they're just, like, presented to me like, oh, yeah. And oftentimes the commercial, like, doesn't say their name either because I'm supposed to recognize them just by their face,
Yeah.
And I'm like,
it's like the
what?
It's like those commercials with a Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart, where it's like they don't say Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart. You're just supposed to find it funny that Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg are doing this thing together because you know who those people are.
It is funny.
It is funny, but if you had no idea who those people were or their background, you'd just be like,
"That's true.
This is an interesting mix of people." And yeah,
because it is. That's weird. That's the weirdest pairing.
Yeah,
like ever. I feel like.
I don't know. They make it work.
It's so strange. Like homemaker extraordinaire and gangster rapper. Like hanging out,
having fun. Yeah,
having fun.
But, yeah,
I like the meme. I like the meme of them. That's like one of these people went to jail. Oh.
Yes, one of them certainly did. Look, how about that for breaking stereotypes?
Yeah, look at that.
Look at all the healing.
So yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, okay. that might be the weird. No, I agree. I'm presented with these people. I know some of them just from like casual internet browsing,
Sure.
But the ones that are kind of like B tier famous, they just like show up on television. I'm like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what I'm supposed to be. I don't know what I'm supposed to be taking away from this commercial.
Yeah, I really do wish that more commercials or kind of had that feature that Amazon has, where they have the X-ray feature where you can like,
they can see.
You can just slide over and be like, who's on the screen right now, and why are they important, or like, what's the context of things going on?
You can tell that that commercial is not for me because I don't know what's happening. Right?
True.
I've developed this theory.
Mm-hmm.
You can estimate the age range of who the commercial is for based on the music playing in the commercial.
Yeah.
Right. This is a new theory I have been developing. I've been noticing. I guess I've just consciously noticed it recently. I'm imagining this has been around for a long time and people are listening to me going, yeah, you moron. That's exactly what it's for. But no, as always, I have been not paying attention. And I sort of noticed, like, if there's songs I recognize, I'm like, oh, this commercial is for me. And it's depressing now that all those commercials are like car insurance or like weird junk like that I don't care about. If it's targeted at younger people, there are much more modern songs. And then there are the commercials that are like, have really old music now, like from the 70s. You're like, well, that commercial is not for me. I don't need whatever this product is. We're just gonna. There are the few examples of like, since the Beatles sold their catalogs or whatever, like every commercial had a Beatles song in it for a while, just because it was like available and everyone knows who that is. So there are outliers in this theory, but you can generally kind of estimate the age range of the target audience based on the music they have selected for the commercial and how recognizable it will be to said audience.
Yeah, I have heard a similar theory of the people like street performers. I think it's called like busking or something, where they go out and they play their music, right?
Busking.
They will kind of guesstimate the age of the people around them and then calculate back of going, okay, when they were 15, what was it? What's some songs from that era that I know?
Oh yeah, true.
And try and play music because then that's how you get good tips, right? Because people go, hey, I love that song, and you're doing a good job,
yeah.
Right? So it's like you kind of say, I've heard that as applied to street performers to give some context to like the importance of music in people's lives, and trying to connect with them.
True story. I like it. There you go.
Mr. CDL extraordinaire is on the call with us. So hello. How does it feel to be on the other side?
Breaker. How's it going over there, big guy? Over.
Okay, Aaron.
So there are no but.
What's your handle?
I don't have a handle, guys. I drive a bus. I'm not in a truck. We don't have radios. We're not that fancy in a bus.
Your buses don't have radios? Come on.
Nope.
Wow. Man.
I don't want to look at a bus for a while. I'm all
That was fast.
So this week or last week, I guess, was kind of a cacophony of many things. So Monday we had school. They're like, hey, you think you'll be able to go to this thing throughout the week? And I was like, oh, it'll be in the afternoon. Not a big deal. And turns out it's from 7 a.m. to 4. So Tuesday rolls around, and I go to that place I sent a picture of, Collin. That is, it's kind of like a VOTEC where kids go to learn trade stuff, but they also have like other stuff for like adults that learn how to do buses or trucks and all these things. And so day one is just literally in the classroom where they're just throwing all this information at us, and then we go out to the what I guess they call it the range, because there's the building, and then behind it there is just like a huge open area of like roads, and there's like a pond, and there's like all these like backing up places, and they have like a fake railroad track and fake stop signs and stoplights to kind of like mimic conditions. And our instructor, who was very nice, kind of would just like abandon us. And so he's like, "Oh, I'm not worried about you guys driving. I'm more worried about what's called a pre-trip." And it's where there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different parts that you have to do, that you have to inspect. 10 different sections, which has anywhere from 4 to like 12 different parts of the bus that you have to inspect. And he's like, "Oh, I'm not worried about you guys driving. Keep in mind, I've never driven a bus before." And he's like, "Oh, just hammer out that pre-trip." And so it's myself and 2 other coaches from a college, and we suffered together, so we have a unique bond now, I guess. And that's Tuesday. Wednesday rolls around. We're outside. We're doing things, getting a little bit more acclimated, a little more comfortable. Thursday rolls around, and we do the pre-trip stuff. And they're like, "Hey, you need to look busy. There's some senators here. So we want to get this place moving." And we're like, "No, our jobs depend on us getting this. So we're gonna stay with this." And then we go drive around a little bit. And then Friday rolls around, and our instructor leaves because he's sick. Granted, we only saw him like 10% of the time we were there. And so we like random instructors just kind of show up. They're like, "Hey, do you have anything?" "No." "Okay. Hey, let's go do this real quick." And learning more and more about this test, or who the tester is going to be, and like how hard he grades. And so we're all like, "Oh, great. This is not at all what we want to deal with. We're more confident now." Then Saturday rolls around, where the day that I tested on. It is 20 degrees, snowing, and very, very cold and windy.
Perfect.
And so I'm the first one up, and like this guy comes out and he's got his clipboard, and he is just bundled. I was like, "I have a hoodie and a jacket and sweatpants, so we're gonna make this as quick as possible." And you draw different parts of the bus, so you either do the whole thing or different sections. All right, you only have this part. All right, bet, let's go. And so you do the front approach, and on this test, it's not like any normal test. It's like, "Oh, what is this part? Next thing." You have to identify the part. You have to explain how that part is connected to the bus. Then you have to have 3 adjectives describing that part. And so on a bus, I walked up and I was like, "All right, boom, my bus is not leaning. It has no oil or debris underneath it. I have my all amber clearance, warning, and 4-way indicators. They are secured tightly by their screws, and they're not cracked, broke, chipped, or missing." Boom, next one. And so I do the front, do the hood. I'm like, bam, that's the coolant. Bam, that's the pivot arm, drag link, upper and lower knuckle, tie rod end. And then they're all connected by their cotter keys and castle nuts. Boom, boom. And so I'm just killing it. I get to the tire, and I'm like, boom, forward 32nd inch depth, not flat, bumped, or bruised, or brazed. Bam, bam, bam. And I'm so caught up, I forgot the word lug nut. And so I sit crisscross applesauce in the cold snow, and I'm like, these things, the things you on rim. And this whole time, this guy's not saying a word to me because he can't. And he's like, the lug nuts. And I'm like, oh, the lug nuts. They're secured tightly. They're clearly all present. They're by whatever. So go inside. And like this guy sprints inside like the bus. And so I turn it on, and with an air brake bus or air brake system, you have to do an air brake test. There's many different tests you have to do. And so I'm sitting there, boom, boom, boom. And I just stop and look at him. Like, "You want me to turn the heater on?" He's like, "Yes." I'm like, okay. Like, all the heaters come on, we're warming up. And so I'm freaking out because I'm panicking. Like, there's something I missed. I must have done something wrong. And I conclude my braking test. I'm like, I honk the horn. I was like, ta-da! And he's like, all right, go over there and do the backing portion. Like, oh, thank gosh. I go over there, do a straight back, do an offset back. And when I do the offset back, so you pull forward and you angle it and put the next blade over, I was like, I really got to get out and see what I'm doing. And like, I unclip my belt, my seat belt, and the guy comes up and knocks the window. He's like, look, it is too cold for this. If you're in, you're in. I was like, well, I mean, if you insist. So then I go over and I parallel park. Yes, you can parallel park a bus. And I do decent. I approach it. And I was like, man, I'm going to kill this. And I start backing up. And I was like, oh, no. And so like, I angle it. Like, I'm in. And I'm like, I get out. And I was like, I mean, I would pass me. Like, I'm good enough. Now go and do, all right, let's go. Let's hop in. And we'll go this way. And you're going to demonstrate how you do a student drop-off. There are 16 steps that you have to do. And if you miss one of those, it's an automatic fail.
Oh.
And so I'm driving around. He's like, all right, up ahead where a certain little marker is. And there's like all these twisting roads. And they have like all these semis parked because there was a semi class going on. And he's like, all right, little Johnny needs to get off the bus. That's his bus stop. Go. And I was like, clearly, since that is a stop, checking my mirrors, I'm turning my four-way flashers on, bam, 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 bam. And I'm white knuckling the steering wheel because I'm scared. I'm like, he's going to fail me. And so I drop Johnny off and I do my thing. I merge back into traffic. He's like, all right, I'm left. And so I finally get on the road, like highways.
Ooh.
And if for those of you listening, if you're ever driven a bus, if you ever just like put the hammer down on the accelerator, like in your mind, you're driving a car for so long, man, I need to be careful. This thing is gonna fly. No, buses don't fly. And because you get points deducted if you go 10 under because you're what is it called? Way of traffic. You're impeding traffic.
Yes.
And so I like the whole time, like it's 55, I'm just floored. I'm just like, and so I had to articulate what I'm doing, like the process of like, I have the accelerator, not impeding traffic as I'm trying to get up to speed. And he would ask me sporadically, like, hey, what was that time back there? What's the speed limit? And I was just going. And then he changed lanes, changed back. And there was one time I was changing lanes and I was waiting for this car, and he got me. Like, what was that sign? Like, ooh. Not gonna lie, I was not paying attention, but I believe it was the bus sign. He's like, very good. I was like, oh, no way. I actually do this. And so we pull forward, like we go through the town and we come back. And he's like, all right, go straight, demonstrate, going at a high angle turn and then a low angle turn, make sure you're not in the way of traffic. And so I'm just, swinging by. We get to the railroad track. There's a fake railroad track. He's like, all right, demonstrate to me a railroad stop. And so if there is a train, you go up, put four-way flashers on, open the windows, sit and wait, put a neutral, put the air brakes on, you wait. And I was like, there's a train, right? He's like, no, there is no train. I was like, oh, duh. I clearly wouldn't do any of that while I'm like trying to secretly push the button in to get the parking brake off. And I was like, oh, I would do this. And so I go up, and again, I'm freaking out because I'm like, I did all this. He's going to fail me on like going over a line or something. And I park it, brake, e-brake, or the air brakes, and I turn the bus off. And the whole week I've been panicking. I was like, because if you turn a bus off wrong, then the child warning light comes on. It's like the buzzer, like you left the switch on or whatever. And so I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do this. I've done all week. I haven't left the light on at all. I got this. I'm good. The moment I turn the bus off, heart dropped. I turned the key back. I was like, oh, I am clearly demonstrating how to handle the warning lights off the bus to make sure that there's no kids left. So I sprint to the back of the bus, open the door, close it, sprint back, turn the bus off, and it stops. And he's like, "Oh, that's not on the test." And I was like, "Oh my god!" But he's like, "Oh man, you did good. You passed. Congratulations." And I was like, "Did I pass? What did you say?" And he signed the form, and I had to wait there for a little bit, waited for the other coaches. Then I drove home in the snow. And so probably one of the hardest tests I've ever had, harder than any of the teaching tests I've had to take. I got it done. So it was a very interesting week, let's just say the least.
Much rejoicing. Great job.
Yay.
Thank you. So I am ready to drive a bus. I got my actual license today. Well, it's coming in the mail, but I have the paper copy.
Yeah.
And I will be able to drive us. Which is weird because I don't have to do any pre-trip inspections. It's literally not my job. And so I'm like, I'll never have to learn this again. Huzzah.
Until you do. You're like, oh, I remember something about that. Air the tires.
If I had to crawl under the bus, which one of my colleagues did, like in the snow, I probably would have. Because you draw certain portions, and thankfully I only had what's under the hood. There's the coolant systems, some of the hoses, the steering system, the suspension, and the brakes, and the wheel, the tire, and the rim. So in that is about 30 different pieces.
Yeah.
That's not including the approach and side of the bus. And then you have to go on the inside and talk about all your panels and all your switches. And then you have to do the brakes. Then hopefully don't cry on the steering wheel because the instructor hasn't said anything in like an hour. Like, please do something. Please. Am I doing good? Please not. But yeah, it's a very weird week because they just left, 3 adults with a very expensive piece of equipment. And I was talking with one of the coaches, and he's like, that gate's open. We could just drive this bus down the road. And thankfully, another instructor came out. But then our original instructor came back, and he's like, "Oh, when we got back, he's like, hey, I've got to be honest, I didn't know where you guys were." And we're like, "Wow, thank you. That shows trust us because we haven't seen him in like 2 hours." He's like, "Yeah, I didn't know where you guys were. I thought I lost you." I'm like, "Oh, thank you."
What?
And trying to deal with my school going virtual, and I didn't learn about it until like the day before, so I'm like trying to panic and put all my stuff like on Google Classroom and trying to study at the same time. Yeah, last week sucked. It was fun, but it sucked, and I'm glad it's over. So, boom.
Oh, good. So, when do you get your first busing assignment?
I don't know. So it might be I have a feeling it's going to be like this week or next week because we're still out of this year. And some teachers are taking different turns going back and forth with taking the bus route. So I will never do a morning bus route because I don't live anywhere close to the district.
Yeah.
But it'll probably be like an after school bus route, which hopefully, knock on wood, it will be like super short, maybe like an hour and a half top. But the problem is they don't provide maps. My principal literally told me, "Oh, just pick a student." I'm like, not gonna happen.
That sounds like a bad idea.
Could be like an elementary kid, and they're like, that was my house, and then I moved, and then there's a barn. I'm like, I don't no. Go sit down. I will drop you off wherever. Stop talking. So,
I feel like this should be a thing that is able to be programmed into like a Google map, and you just like go, all right, here you go, follow the blue line, boom, go for it.
You would think.
I feel like that is definitely a possibility, right? So I don't.
Yeah,
I feel like that should be a thing that can happen. If not like a Google map, like an actual GPS thing, right? Like a unit, like program a route and just be like, stop here, stop there, boom, go.
I had to help a teacher take a piece of paper and draw it before, and I think there is a way you could use like Google Maps to like draw it out and then post it because I asked my principal, I was like, hey, I just put my phone on the little holder thing and like have a little GPS going. He's like, yeah, that could probably work.
Oh my gosh.
Our buses aren't very nice. So keep that in mind. And only one of the buses has air brakes. The other ones have hydraulics. So I spent. Well, the one with air brakes is the bigger activities bus for like sporting events and things like that.
Yeah, so the one that you would drive. So good.
I mean, there is a 14 passenger bus, and I will take that in a heartbeat over any of the other buses.
You know what the big boy bus?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll take a little one. All that.
Come on. I'm excited.
But yeah, that's what I'm rolling with. No pun intended. But
or definitely intended.
Whatever. We know the wheels on the bus are going round and round all through.
I could not think of that song while I was out there because I was like, "There's a song about buses, isn't there?"
Oh my gosh!
The other coaches were like, "Magic School Bus," and I'm like, "No, there's like a bus song." I can't. I was so frazzled, I could not think of it.
Also, the school bus.
Also,
good to go.
I sat there in the cold on concrete. I was like, "What are these round things on the tire?" He's like, "Lug nuts." Boom. They're clearly present, and they are tight and secured. Because if they were too tight, they would obviously be cracked. Or if they were not, they would be too loose.
Sure, and they might be
gone. All right, get in the bus. Yes, sir. Get in the bus.
It's cold.
Sure. The other day, I was all right, I'm trying to figure out how to resist. There is a show that I watch on YouTube, right? It's about like guitar pedals. Okay. Anyway, they're very strange, very whatever. And they have a little stinger thing because the guy like messes up his words sometimes. And the little stinger says word is hard. Right. And so I must have internalized this at some point because I do that when I'm teaching sometimes. I like the thing, and I like try to like get stuck, or I say the words backwards, you know what I mean? Because you're just like going and you say things out of order sometimes. And I said out loud in a classroom full of 6th graders, "Man, words is hard." And so now I have a sign behind my podium that some girl made for me that says "words is hard." This is the new official class motto. That it's okay because words is hard. That's so sorry, JHS Show. I have appropriated your slogan into my classroom. Sorry about that. It's okay. So it's okay, Aaron. Sometimes we just forget the names of things, but it's okay.
If they asked me any other part of the bus, I would have been screwed because I was like, "Yeah, I forgot most of it." So I'm very thankful with the portion I got. I'll just leave it at that.
That's a very interesting teaching style of like you have to know everything, but you're not going to know what you have to tell us until you show up and we ask for it. I kind of would much rather just be like, no, I'm just going to tell you everything I know. Like I'm just going to tell you everything instead of just the piecemeals. I stress out way more about that of like study everything, know everything in depth, but also I'm going to ask you about 5% of it, or 10, or like 30% of the information.
Well, that can be difficult because the way that you internalize information sometimes is sequential, right? And so whenever you are like revisiting this information and telling it out, you tend to go in the order that you learned it.
Yeah.
Or the order that you remember it, right? You have put it in some sort of arbitrary order that helps you remember it. So sometimes when you have to jump through stuff, it's very difficult because you have to figure out, like, you're still in your brain running through all the information. You're just then pausing at the part they asked for, right? Because you're like, duh, 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 duh. Boom, you want this one. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, it's kind of like the ABCs. It's like how many times, if you were like, what comes after K? A lot of people go,
yeah,
L.
yeah, exactly. You know, you go, what's not like barely anybody can be like, hey, what's the 15th letter of the alphabet?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. That comes down to, and I know also for time's sake, for a lot of those things, they literally cannot have every student tell you, stern to bow everything about the bus. Like, there's just not enough time in a day for that.
No, exactly. Especially when it's so cold outside. Like, tell me one thing and get on the bus. Show me how to turn the heater on. That's what
I do think the cold worked in my favor, because I heard horror stories of him and how he treated students, and how, like, because you have to enter and exit the bus a certain way, and everything is like a trucker mindset, and very few things are focused on like buses. And so we thankfully enough got all of the truck teachers. But the way, like, I took notes on everything. Granted, the guy's like, oh, God. Again, very nice gentleman. If he is listening, thank you. But it was just, it's like, I'm not worried about you guys driving. I was like, that makes one of us. Thank you for the confidence. And like, it was just weird. Like, on day one, after we were leaving, he's like, oh, hey, Aaron, go ahead and park it. Like, I've never driven a bus before. Like, I've looked at them and I sat in them, but I've never driven a bus. He's like, oh, yeah, it's fine, just go park it. Like, okay, here I go, not knowing how to turn the lights on. And so it was just a weird level of trust. I'm like, all right, here's this giant piece of equipment. Don't kill yourself. Go. I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. So,
I mean, that's fair, because I kind of understand that if you since you said he's more of a truck, because like a truck driver, by the time they get to this point, will have been practiced many hours behind the wheel, like at that course. You know what I mean? Like, they probably have driven around a lot more, and like, I know the pre-trip is a big thing for truck. Like, it's a hugely important thing. Like, there's paperwork and manifests you have to fill out, like, about your pre-trip and log it with the company and stuff, so they know it's all good to go. So that makes sense why that was such a focus, because that's what, like, is the norm. Like, everyone else is.
Yeah, it was. And, like, again, I'm not going to be the one that ever does a pre-trip, because we have a maintenance person for that. But
yeah, the bus person.
They talked about, the horror stories of, people that get in their trucks and just drive without doing a pre-trip. It's like, oh, hey, did you know the air brakes weren't properly working? And oh, boom, you killed 10 people. And so, like, that is super important, especially if, like, that is your job, like, you're making money this way. And it was not an eye-opening experience, because I've listened and I heard Dad talk to truckers on his TV radio, but, like, seeing how, like, everything unfolded, like, behind the scenes, like, oh, this is how people got there. Like, I've backed a trailer before. It did not look fun when, like, we were driving around the course over and over and over again, and watching, like, a group of people trying to get their CDLs take a semi with the trailer load and do a straight back, where you can't, like, there's these lines that, like, hey, if you cross over that, you get points taken away or you fail. And I'm like, I'm struggling with this. I couldn't do that. It's like, it's not like, oh, here's 20 feet. It's like 50 yards that they have to back up in a straight line. Like, oh, I only have to do like 20 feet. So, and mine's all connected. So it's not that bad, but, like, watching them do it and having to do, like, oh, here's a hill, do a safe start and emergency stop on a hill, go. And it's like, oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, that's true. I can't even drive a truck with, like, a normal flatbed trailer on it. So I can't really fathom how difficult that might be. Like, there's no way I could do that. Especially when you watch them, like, the professional dudes, like, with back in look docks, or watch them do that. Like, these impossible turns are just like, whack, boom, done. You're like, what? How How did you do? What magic is this? I don't understand.
It is amazing to watch them work.
I did try to convince my instructor because in the manual it says avoid packing a bus as much as possible. And so when we tried to do the parallel parking, I was like, actually, the manual says to avoid parking as much as possible, to leave it in a straight line where you can pull away forward safely. And he's like, driver side parallel. Dang.
Yeah, nice try though. That's good.
That was gonna work. But yeah, I think it'll be more real when I have like kids on there. But again, most of the places that I'll be driving are the speed limit's like 30. So I think I'll be all right. Getting on a highway with a bus is kind of scary. So I'm totally content with not doing that for a long time or in small increments.
It's true. I've always wanted to like try to drive a bus, but like an empty one.
Yeah.
Right. Like that. I don't want to drive a bus with people on it.
Yeah. Did they?
Like I think it'd be kind of cool if I could like let me like drive it around town. Just me.
Just supervised. Maybe.
Yeah.
And just like see what it feels like to drive something that enormous. But I don't want kids on that bus. You can't be crazy.
Aaron, did they give you like tips or training for how to handle like mentally the chaos of a bus and students and the noise? Or were they just nope? Oh wait, okay.
Well, that's probably the school does that, right?
On the written portion, it talks about like on the written test, it talks about like, hey, if you have an unruly student, these are the steps you need to, do to deal with it. And it's like, okay, thank you. And so,
what would Bill do? Yes, perfect.
So, like, I even
true.
I even made the comment of like, hey, do we need to learn how to put like the little snow tracks on these tires? Like, partially as a joke, but partially not. And the guy's like, nope. You'll learn these as you go. I'm like, that's not overly.
You'll learn it in the snow. On the side of
it's true.
I did kind of feel bad for the other guys that are with their college coaches, at a junior college here in Oklahoma. They're baseball coaches, so we had a lot of fun. But I was like, don't you guys have like your own bus drivers for the school? And he's like, yeah, I've been coaching for like 18 years. And I've never had to drive a bus, so this is kind of pointless. But my athletic director said, I need to get this, or I'm probably not going to have a job next year. I'm like, oh, sweet.
Wow.
Welcome to the party. And so I was like, yeah, they don't have to deal with kids. They deal with college baseball kids. And again, my school is not very big. But having to deal with that and, here's all these kids. All right, where am I going? The first few times, I think the principal rides with me. And so it's a little bit more like, oh, hey, do here, do here, do here. So it makes it a little bit more regimented. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know where I'm going. And then, like, I can't turn around, I can't stop the bus and yell at a kid. Like, that doesn't make sense. So it's a lot to kind of, process. And because even when I was driving, it's like, all right, like on this test, and they throw a lot at you, like, as you're driving. It's like, all right, there's an intersection coming up. You don't have to stop, but that's like to get points, you have to look at both sides, look at down the middle, make sure it's not coming, and look at your rear view mirrors, make sure you're crossed. So there's like, you're doing a lot of things at once while you're driving up. And so, like, checking mirrors, doing this, checking traffic, doing this, looking in, this mirror, getting the air pressure up and like all this stuff. And so I think that was kind of a good ready set, because you don't really have to focus on that like when you're driving, just driving, and then you have to deal with the sea of children as they screech and holler as they do. Yeah.
Oh yes, I remember riding the bus as a youth, much hollering and screaming. Sit down back there. That's what I remember from Bill.
The hollering, screaming coming from the front of the bus, not
coming from the bus driver. Yeah. Also, what I remember from Bill is, Aaron, the proper way to back up a bus. Okay, here you go. Yell at a high schooler to look out the window and make sure you're not going to hit it. Actually trust the high schooler who is lying to you the whole time. Hit a fence post. Boom. That's it. That's what you do.
Yeah. Easy.
Easy. Pretend like nothing happened and drive away forward. That is pretty much how I went down.
Yeah, that's. I'm not thrilled at the prospect of this at all. So,
yeah, I think it's awful cute of you to have such an optimistic outlook. Be like, they won't make me drive the morning route.
No, again, they cannot, because I don't live in the school district.
Cannot is not really.
Yeah. That was from the school board member and superintendent. So if you get super desperate, but I do not have to do that.
Springfield School District closed for the rest of the week because of shortages. So you'll be getting a phone call one night. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is like this whole process is very difficult. Some of the people that were in the classes ahead of us, they have failed it 3 times.
Wow.
In a lot of parts, and they're making it harder. So instead of like a week class and then boom, here's a test, they're making it to where it's like a 2-week course, and you have to drive like a minimum of like 120 hours. In a bus. So the state is making it more difficult for people to get their CDL. They're making the written test much harder. They're making the actual process to get your bus license much more difficult. And for some reason, they're doing that because when we tested, there was a guy that was ahead of us who was like, "Yeah, it's my 3rd time doing it. I always forget to stick a little red arm out." And then it took me forever to...
Like literally the one job of the bus, put out the stop sign.
I mean, you'd be surprised because you're thinking of so many things. Like on that portion of the test, it's like, hey, I gotta check my mirrors. If I don't check my mirrors in a certain way, I fail.
That's true. But like the one thing I know about school buses is they have a little stop sign that you have to put out when you stop. So like,
so while we were there, they all the senators, everybody came. We actually had one of those big prison buses, and I made the joke. I was like, "Oh, well, we have to test off of that." And one of our instructors were like, "Maybe," but like, straight face.
I was
like, "Oh, I was joking. You don't seem to be joking." So
why is no one else laughing? Oh no!
Why is no one else laughing?
Very serious. Truck drivers are very serious people, apparently. That's
it is very difficult. And I mean, the thing that Governor Stitt just passed, where anybody can be substitute.
It's the weirdest thing.
Like you need to be like a cognitive person to drive the bus because you have precious cargo, small children on that bus, and you are in charge of their lives. But it's increasingly difficult to pass that test, and they're going to make it require more, so it's even more difficult for people to get it. And if it's easy now with people having part-time, there's going to be a huge drop in numbers. So if you're retired and you want a good job, be a bus driver because schools really, really need it. Especially
that's
I don't want to do it.
Yeah. That's the quandary, right? Like that balance of how to offer that training for jobs like that, right? So like, I don't feel like making the test harder is a good answer, right? Now they're requiring training to like actually drive the bus. I haven't decided yet. That's probably a good idea.
Sure.
Right? Like more practice time driving. I feel like that's good. But like it's really hard with these things, right? Especially because you don't want to just be like, we have a shortage, we'll just like let her fly and open up the floodgates so whoever wants to be a bus driver can get it. You know what I mean?
Steve can just show up one morning and be like, I gotcha.
You probably don't want that, right? I feel like that could have negative consequences in the other direction, but you are right. If you just make the test harder only, then you're going to take a shortage and then exacerbate it because it's going to be impossible for people to get a license, right? So it's a very interesting problem of how to offer said training and how to set those requirements for certain things, right? I feel like that is a tricky thing to do.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what the right answer would be, but I'm pretty sure it's like blanket make the test harder. Not the correct answer.
Did they give explanations for why the test would be harder and why they thought that would make it more attractive to more people? I don't. That's what
you're asking the state that has an open Facebook hunting season, so I'm gonna let you take a second on that.
I forgot about that.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah,
like hunters, so more people can take the hunters out into the wilderness because they really want to find fast. I get it. It makes.
I think there is. I think there is a like quote unquote legit reason. I'm just too tired to Google it. But
fair enough.
It's and that's why kind of my class was so rushed because you would typically go from like 4 o'clock in the evening to 9 o'clock at night where you do all this and you go like a full week, but they're like, Tuesday, go. It started yesterday, you'll be fine. And so that's why for us it was rushed because I think like February 1st or something, like the whole state changed the new system.
Trying to get it in before that deadline switch. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And so that's why, especially this was like super rushed. But I'm trying to recover. I didn't sleep that well. Very tired. Because it is exhausting trying to drive this thing for that long or going over repetitively like everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's all the parts like in the hood, the front, and you have to come up with adjectives for everything. And how is it related? And what does it do? And it's like, all right, time to drive. Time for lunch. All right, time to drive again. Like, I'm exhausted. Can we just chill for a little bit, please? Thank you, but
no, more bus.
Yeah.
More bus.
All bus, all the time.
Yeah. So it was a lot, but it's done. I now have to do a physical. They had to like check my blood pressure, something else, and then I'll be good to go. And then once a year, I have to do a checkup of some sort, or like a show, like, hey, can you still see? You're good. So,
okay, power slide it. That's your continuing education credit for next year. You're gonna learn how to power slide it, or do a J turn.
Yeah,
Blues Brothers Park.
Yeah. When do you start going on the ramps, jumping?
Yeah, when it's advanced busing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, figure 8 busing is very popular. So.
Oh, that's true.
What?
Sure.
Yes.
Never seen figure 8 busing, Tom?
Like the demolition derby, the figure 8 racing. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, figure 8 racing. Okay. You can do it with buses.
That sounds
horrid. Yes, that just sounds like like it's already dangerous enough in a car, right? And then you're like, aha, you know what this super dangerous sport needs? More mass. Yes. Isaac, what's happening? We're just gonna go.
Well, I mean, we know how you find the best bus is through our motorsport. We learned this from Top Gear.
Yeah,
but
I think figure 8 racing, not the appropriate race.
Takes it a whole nother level at that point. Like, oh my gosh,
it's like the worst.
Yeah,
I can't. It's hard for me to believe that that's a thing that actually exists. Sometimes, like, yes, we're gonna drive around as fast as possible in a figure 8 pattern.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Will I crash into somebody? Yes.
Most definitely.
It's never good whenever the stipulation is last car actually driving wins.
Exactly.
Oh no.
Wait a minute. Not so sure about this. Yeah, you don't want to be the last car surviving anything.
No,
that's not something you really want. You like to be the first.
Yeah.
I have to ask. We're talking about cars, and this may be a challenge. This may be an appropriate challenge. I think for next. We may need to bring back the CDL challenge and just do a recap of other things. But
Fair
also,
enough.
Have you guys gotten a chance to watch the latest Grand Tour?
Negative.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I was going to the other day, and then had school emergencies, so I've been very busy.
Okay. I think we may need to. I don't know if that's the next challenge, or we need to recap CDL and then do that, or what. But I think that might be a good one to get back into watching more stuff too.
Okay. Yes. Fair enough.
I have thought.
Oh dear. Okay. Okay. I will try to do that now. So let's write that down. Things to do. Right. Yep. Watch that. Remember it exists. Watch it. Okay.
That work, Aaron, for a.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I don't know. Sure. Schedule.
Okay. Sounds good. Yes, we were dealing with school emergencies. We also closed school last week. That was fun and exciting.
How did those announcements come to you, the teacher?
Email. That's how that announcement came to me.
The worst way for announcements like that to come.
Yep. It was basically like
Brandon, I got to be Brandon. I got to be. So Tuesday rolls around, and one of my softball girls texted me group chat like, "Hey, can I get my bag?" Another girl responded, "We don't have school." I was like,
"What?
You didn't talk about?" I had to go to the school app, where I then had to go to the live feed page, where it says, "Oh, by the way, we're not having school." I texted one of the other coaches. He's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Check the app." He's like, "Oh, a phone call and or an email would have been nice." So I learned from an app. I wasn't even there.
Yes. I got an email, and it said basically, "Hey, guess what? We're not going to have..." Got this email Wednesday afternoon. So this would have been Wednesday, what, 1 o'clock? Yes, approximately sometime around 1. And it said, like, guess what? It gave this big, long explanation. Well, our superintendent likes to put way too many words on a paper. You're like, this, I don't need any of this. Shut up. Stop it. And then they just like copied that and sent it home to the parents. And so like at the end of the day, I was like, okay, here, let me decode this for you. So when you take this home to your parents and they look at this and they have absolutely no idea what the bottom half of this paper is talking about, because it's not anything that you really need to know right now.
Yeah.
Like the bottom half of the paper was like basically for me, and like he put it on the note home to parents, like this like crazy super wordy like memo thing. Like, what are you doing?
Be transparent.
I mean, yeah, but you're speaking in acronyms at parents. They're gonna be like, I don't understand. I don't even understand what half those things mean, right? So I was like, let me decode for this for you. Basically, we did emergency wellness break. So we were already out of school like this Monday, right?
Yeah.
For like a teacher in-service day. And he was like, all right, so we're canceling all school activities and school-related things for Thursday, Friday, all weekend, and Monday. Boom.
Oh, wow.
Done. So here was the confusing bit. This one is freebie, right? Like, kids go home. We're not going to worry about it. You don't have any work to do. I'm doing virtual thing.
Oh, to you, the teacher, right? There was nothing that you had to.
This time, right?
Okay.
I didn't have to say to the kids anything. The kids didn't have to do any work. Okay. Then it explained this really convoluted process about next time, though. Guess what?
Oh.
So for the past 3 days, that's what I was doing at work, is making all of the things that will go home next time. So like, apparently the state of Missouri has allocated 6 days of what they're calling AMI, which is alternate methods of instruction. Yes.
Only 6. Okay.
See, yes. These are days where the kids can be at home doing work and they count as real school days.
Okay.
Sure.
Right. You don't have to make them up. They're not like whatever. Yeah. The only 6 part is an interesting plan.
Yeah.
I've read people are trying to make that more, which means I have to make more things, which doesn't sound appealing, but whatever. There are 6 days where they would work on predetermined classwork to get it counted as a school day, right? So the stipulations are students must complete work for grade.
Gotcha.
Boom. So I told my kids, like, am I going to grade this 100% accurately? No. Like, am I going to be grading to see if you did it? Yes. Okay.
Completion.
Spoilers. But it's graded. It's going to go in the grade book, whatever, if we do it. And so I had to make these things. 6 days worth of work for science and social studies. That's what I did for 3 days. Was figure out how in the heck does this work?
Yeah.
What is this going to look like? And then there was again some really, really convoluted like distribution model that people were talking about, and I was like, "Look, shh, tell me what I need to make. Don't tell me the first thing that you need. The first words out of your mouth are not how do I deliver these things to the kids. I don't care about that. Tell me what it is I'm making first, please."
Yeah, it's kind of the like what's going on and how does it impact me? Like that's really like
right?
What's going on is we're not having school. How does it impact me is like now what happened?
Yeah, what you told me to make thing. Yeah. What kind of thing would you like me to make? Please explain. Do there any guidelines for this, or is it just whatever I want to? Turns out it's just whatever I want to. Okay, that's fine. Right. The caveat is it must be like review material. Right.
Oh, nothing new.
Nothing like brand new. Right. So you can't like introduce brand new concepts when they're at home, which I probably wouldn't do that anyway. That's a bit extreme.
Fair enough.
So whatever. But it's really mildly annoying when your superintendent like speaks in metaphors half the time. Like, I can't really tell you how many times he said the phrase, "We're trying to build a plane in the air here." Like,
oh, no.
Bro.
Hey.
Stop it. First of all, the first problem with this metaphor is it's stupid. Second of all, you are trying to build a 747, and I need a Cessna. Right? That's what you're trying to build. You're trying to build the airplane and the airport and the control tower and the flight grid and the flight plan. Blah blah. No. Just plane, please. I would settle for a glider.
That'd be useful. I don't even need
parachute, baby. Yeah. And we're trying to build this like super complex thing.
That's a really good point. I've heard that metaphor all the time. That was really, really big back at the conservation department from the director there. That was something she said nigh on every week about like
horrid
plane where we fly, and it's awful.
Yeah, especially if you hear it every week. That's like you're literally defeating the purpose of this metaphor. Just land the plane already. Okay, stop.
But I like what you've even added of like, have we all agreed on what the appropriate plane is? Like,
no.
Did we start out with what we learned is that there was a prefab plane at takeoff that they were assembling that they weren't telling us what really was going on, and that there was more just like, no, we're just building it, and it's like, they had the plan.
You're lying to me.
I see. Just lying to me.
No, this was legitimately, we're making this up on the fly, like, whether or not like lack of preparation on his part because he didn't like bother to think about having this be a thing. Like they constructed a whole section of the website in like 48 hours, right? With like parent information and links and access to like places for us to put these assignments so that people can get them, right? Yeah. So it was kind of that part was for real. Sure. But it was like, guys, this all I need from you, just tell me, are there any guidelines at all? What it should look like, how it needs to be, like a format or not? I got nothing. So I made a whole bunch of Google Slides that are like, basically, I just typed up a bunch of stuff from our notes and everything. And it was just like, there's a couple slides of like reading and then some questions and some more reading and some questions, like just about all the stuff we learned about. You know? So that's what I made. Made like 1 billion of those things. But yeah, I was like, nobody really gave me. I was like, is this fine? I'm doing it, so I don't. It better be.
Yeah, and I guess on one hand, like that, it feels like I don't know, like that's such a weird place to put people of like major things that you're going to be responsible for. Okay, gotta go bye. And it's like,
well, I mean, I get it because like the thing that's going to make sense to me is not the thing that's going to make sense to other people. Right? Like the formatting that I want that's going to be good for my class is not the same formatting that like the English teacher needs for her material. Right? So like, I just basically wanted confirmation of like, you don't care about the format.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Like that's really what I wanted. Like,
that also
don't have one in mind. I don't have to follow like a scripted plan. Okay, good. Yeah. Goodbye. Like
that also needs to be communicated of like, because again, that you're looking for how much agency do I have? How much control do I have over this?
Yeah, because I want all of it.
Yeah,
but like,
exactly. Like it's nice. Like you need to tell me the upper and lower bounds of where I need to go, and then boom, I can do this. Right? Like.
Yeah, we've talked about that before on here. Like the people at my work always like to talk about like the box and are we thinking outside the box? And then like, bro, I'm not even anywhere near your box. Stop.
Yeah. Don't even need the same box. What are
we gotta retire. This is not working out. So like so yeah, that's what I was doing, making all that stuff, and then. Slightly overestimated because we had to print it out for some of our kids that don't have devices.
Yeah.
It's long. It's fine. It's 6 days worth of stuff, so it should be big, right? So it's okay.
Yeah. Ooh, looks doing so much.
And because it's like on a slide, so it's like a paragraph and like a picture, and then you go to the next one.
It's not information dense, right? They're not.
Yeah, it's not. It's not information dense. It's not how it works. Like, here's a little piece of information. Here's another little piece of information,
and
right?
A cool picture, right?
Yeah, and it's spread out over a long way, right? And you can go back and it's easier to find it that way, right? If you're doing it this way, if you need to go back and answer, it's more digestible and easier to find. Yeah. So I did that on purpose. But when you print them all out together, it's a little big. It's fine. Okay. So, yes. We did all that. And yeah, that's what I was doing. It's very like, it was one of those things where it took me a long time to get started because I was trying to like formulate this plan of attack. And then once I got going, it was like, all right, sitting, typing, forever, blam.
Feels good though to kind of get in the groove.
Yeah, that's true. So, yes, once I finally was in the groove, I was like, all right, leave me alone. Don't anybody come and bother me. I'm going. Like,
well, that's like, I don't know. I don't know how much you spend time making spreadsheets for yourself.
0. Oh. Well, I have one spreadsheet, and it was mandatory for work. So I have a spreadsheet in my life. It is student grade progress monitoring spreadsheet. It's all of our learning goals by student and their rank on ability. Yes. It's as boring as it sounds.
Right.
But
it's so helpful. I had the thought several weeks ago of how many visits do my staff need to do to replace the income that I'm currently generating by myself? Right? Good question.
It's a fair question.
Fair
I feel,
question.
as employer, right?
Right? Because I kind of I don't know, when's the break even point? What's the goal here? How do I do this? So then I generated a spreadsheet with 4 tabs that were all interconnected and calculating different business expenses, personal budget expenses, and then breaking it down to the hourly income basis for generated by staff with taxes and all sorts of stuff.
Wow. That hurts me to think about. I'm aware that spreadsheets can do that. I have never made anything so complex. Right? I'm change this field percent. Boom. Yeah.
Well, or
average these fields together.
Yeah.
Nailed it. That's about the extent of my spreadsheet. I don't remember anything else. Sorry, Miss Kolb. I know you're definitely listening. I don't remember a whole lot more about spreadsheets.
Well, we had someone ask us they went what do my prices need to be for my services? And we asked okay, well, how much do you need to survive? What's your monthly budget? And they were like, I don't know. And it was okay, I'm going to do a spreadsheet for you. So we have a spreadsheet that you enter in your personal budget, then that shoots over to another tab where it links to a field, and then you enter in your service prices, and it'll take out taxes, savings, and then it'll calculate how many of each one of those services you need to do on a daily basis to have enough money to pay yourself your annual income. And not enough people think that way. That's such oh, I need money to survive, or I need this to do stuff for me. It's a spreadsheet can tell you that, and I'll build you one. This will be fun. We'll all enjoy this. Maybe me, but all colors, there are comment sections. Great.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, challenge next week. Build it. No, I'm kidding.
No. Veto power.
Anyway, I there's things. I'm busy. See, this is what I have to do. My staff are out doing stuff for me. I have to build spreadsheets. What I can do.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, well, I like the challenge. Aaron, glad you passed.
Yeah.
Bam.
Brandon, glad you got your stuff printed off. Ready to go.
Oh my goodness. Oh, brutal.
I hope you don't have to do it anytime soon.
Yeah, that was the thing the kids were asking me today. So when are we going to need to use this? I was like, well, this is plan B. So
yeah,
hopefully not, but I have a sneaking suspicion that
yeah.
So today was all about here is this, here's how, sorry, go backwards slightly. Today was all about, all right, I'm uploading this to here now, my Google Classroom. If you are a person who does not have internet at your house or has unreliable internet at your house, you can download this right now onto your iPad. Boom. Everything that you need. So that if we do have to do it, you have it already.
Yeah, don't panic.
Whenever this does happen, I will then send out the chunks individually as needed for everybody else. But if that doesn't matter for you, download it right now. I'm watching you push that button, download that onto your iPad so that when you do go home, you don't need internet. You can just do the work. Done. Right? You have it. It's right there.
That's good.
You don't have to worry. So it was all about distribution, and I showed them what it looks like, so it wasn't shocking, right? Do you understand how this works? And they were like, oh yeah, that's simple. I was like, exactly.
Perfect. Yeah.
I labeled it accordingly. This one says science one. Which one do you think you're going to do first? Is it 4? No, it's not 4. It's number 1. And I reminded them that last year we did put out, there are 4 areas on the outside of the school that are like outdoor Wi-Fi routers. So you can like come to the parking lot.
Interesting.
And have internet service. Like there are 4 areas in our school where they're outside. So you can drive up, do your work. Or if you like live in town, right, you could just like walk over, do some work, go home, you know?
Well, that's cool.
So we have 4 of those. And I reminded like one of them is basically right outside our window. So come on up. If you get stuck, I'll have to be here. I'll just yell out the window at you. You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you do? Like, just do that. It'll be fine. So,
it's just like in class.
Yeah, just yell at you. Be great. So yeah.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen anytime soon.
Hopefully not. And we'll see. I don't know. I'm looking out for more of those emails, right? Like,
exactly. Have those alerts on.
Yeah.
Well, I am going to make sure I save this in 3 different locations. So
that's true.
It doesn't happen. And
so the lost episode, part 2, doesn't happen again.
No. So,
my notes from my CDL challenge, so we can relive the magic of the movie that I watched.
Yes. Yeah. No. We'll get back in that mode after we watch it.
Yes. All right.
Go. Okay. Love you guys.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.